The curtains swayed gently, but the air was still. "Welcome to Midnight Mystery. I'm your host, Gustave. Indicate your location in the comments. I always like to know where you're from. Your voice adds magic to these tales. Let's begin." It was a beautiful afternoon in late May when the St. Mary Mead Horticultural Society met in the vicarage garden for its annual summer planning tea. The roses were not yet in bloom, but the lilacs filled the air generously, and the white garden chairs were arranged in neat rows under a green-striped marquee. The usual group of villagers were present: Mrs. Bantry with her ever-ambitious plans for the west borders of Gossington Hall, Colonel Denham grumbling about seed catalogues, and the frisky Mrs. Merriweather, who never welcomed but always advised. Miss Marple sat quietly in the shade of the lilacs, knitting a small pale blue sweater. She expressed no strong opinion about fertilizers or tulip rot, but her soft, "Oh, yes, and that's very curious," landed delicately between the conversations, like petals fallen to the ground. Few paid her any attention, but she noticed everything. Mrs. Lumley's slight flinch at the mention of rhododendrons, the hint of contempt in the vicar's wife's voice when she complimented Mrs. Edgecombe's tart, and the fact that Major Talbot had arrived 15 minutes late, obviously in bad shape, with mud on the cuff of his trousers. At exactly 4 o'clock, the village's newest recruit arrived. One Eloise Arden, who had taken up residence in the long-deserted Greyfriars house on the edge of the village. She was a striking woman in her 50s, with neatly bobbed silver-blonde hair and a manner both cordial and distant. Rumors were already circulating about her mysterious past. She had been an actress, it was said, or perhaps the muse of an artist in Montparnasse. No one really knew. She carried with her a lemon tart and a light, refined charm, but Miss Marple noticed that several older ladies exchanged glances when Miss Arden turned her back. Her arrival had not gone unnoticed and had not exactly been well received. "I must say," Miss Arden said with a tight smile as she set down her pie, "Greyfriars is a most curious place. It groans at night as if remembering old grievances, and only yesterday I could have sworn I saw the curtains in the upstairs drawing room moving, though all the windows were tightly shut." Several women giggled nervously. "Oh, Greyfriars has its stories," said Mrs. Merriweather. "But then, don't all old houses breathe in a peculiar way?" "Yes," Miss Arden replied softly, "but I don't believe walls breathe without a reason." The remark might have ended there, considered an eccentricity if the news had not been broadcast the following morning. Miss Arden was found dead in her upstairs sitting room. The coroner, called from Much Benham, declared it a tragic heart attack. She was sitting, a little too perfectly, in a brocade armchair by the window. The tray, police, nor the villagers, nor perhaps even the law would consider essential. But to her, it was important. She had learned over the course of her long life that the last pieces of a puzzle, however small, were often the ones that revealed character, and therefore the truth. It was about photography. Clara's photograph, the same as the one found in the medallion, cut to hide a silhouette. She had shown it again to Desmond Mortimer a week after the recital. It was in his cottage, quiet and modest, where he offered her tea, his hands trembling and his eyes more sunken than before. He hadn't touched the piano since the recital. His resignation as organist, though unofficial, had been accepted on the sly. "I wanted to ask you something," said Miss Marple, carefully placing the photograph on her table. "You said Clara came to talk to you. You said she gave you this. Do you remember what she said when she handed it to you?" Desmond stared at the image for a long moment. "She said it was her favorite picture, that it had been taken one spring afternoon in Regent's Park. We were sitting by the pond. There was a boy feeding some ducks nearby, and she joked that she felt like the housekeeper in The Turn of the Screw." He gave a sad, brittle laugh. "She said it was the only day all year she hadn't felt watched. And the silhouette she cut out?" His hand hovered near the image but did not touch it. "I never asked, but I knew." He looked at Miss Marple with the heavy eyes of a man who had grown accustomed to the weight of her silence. "That was Branton, wasn't it?" Miss Marple nodded. "Yes, she was with him at the time, a student, barely of legal age. He was charming, intelligent, He paid her attention the way older men sometimes do when they think no one is watching. And she fell in love, I suppose. Or at least what someone felt like that, alone. She told me once, Desmond said, that she ran away from something because it scared her, but she never told me what it was. She left him, Miss Marple said softly. She left Branton. She discovered she was pregnant, and she knew deep down that she couldn't raise a child in his shadow. She left Imogen with a friend, made her life elsewhere, but she always kept that memory, and the photograph. Shortened, yes, but never destroyed. She wanted Imogen to see herself loved, but not by him. Desmond closed his eyes. She came to give it to the girl, didn't she? The music, the photo, the melody, it was all for her. Yes, said Miss Marple, but I think she knew she wouldn't go that far. Clara was clever. She felt she was being followed. So she buried the notebook. She left the melody where the children could hear it. She hoped someone would understand if she couldn't finish the story herself. Desmond slowly opened his eyes. And Imogen? She remembers herself like a child remembers warmth. She hums, dreams, draws. One day, she will know. And heaven forbid you color outside the lines. Sounds like you want to color outside the lines, Marcus observed perceptively. Madison was quiet for a long moment. No one had ever asked her what she wanted before. I used to paint, she admitted quietly. Watercolors mostly. My mother said it was a nice hobby for a young lady, but my father made it clear that art was for people who couldn't make it in the real world. What would you paint? If you could paint anything right now? The question caught Madison off guard. She looked around the elevator, then at Marcus's kind face. Freedom, she whispered. I'd paint what freedom looks like. 2 hours had passed, and Madison's panic had been replaced by something else entirely. Fascination. Marcus had a way of listening that made her feel heard, really heard, for the first time in her life. You know what's funny? Madison said, playing with the hem of her dress. I've lived in Chicago my entire life, but I've never been to a Cubs game. Never walked through Millennium Park without security guards. Never eaten at a restaurant that wasn't featured in some society magazine. That's not funny, Marcus said gently. That's sad. His honesty stung, but it also felt refreshing. My father says mixing with certain people is dangerous for our family's reputation. Certain people like me? Marcus asked without bitterness, just quiet understanding. Madison's cheeks burned with shame. I'm sorry. I know how that sounds. I was raised to believe. She trailed off, realizing how hollow her excuses sounded. You were raised to believe that people like me aren't worthy of people like you. Marcus finished for her. I get it. I've encountered that attitude my whole life. How do you stay so kind? Madison asked, genuinely puzzled. If I faced that kind of treatment, I think I'd become bitter. Marcus was quiet for a moment, considering. My grandmother used to say that other people's prejudices are their prison, not yours. She lived through segregation, through real hatred, and she still believed that love was stronger than fear. She taught me that the best way to fight ignorance is with grace. Madison felt tears prick her eyes. This man, this incredible, accomplished, kind man, had every reason to dismiss her, to judge her by her family's attitudes. Instead, he was showing her a kind of grace she'd never experienced. Your grandmother sounds amazing, Madison whispered. She was. She would have liked you, you know. How can you say that? You don't even know me. Marcus smiled that warm smile that was beginning to make her heart race. I know you're scared of elevators, but you're trying to be brave. I know you gave up painting because someone told you it wasn't practical, but you still dream in colors. I know you were taught to judge people by their skin color, but you're questioning those teachings. That tells me everything I need to know about who you really are. Madison Wells. 3 hours into their confinement, the emergency lighting had dimmed, casting long shadows in the small space. They sat closer now, their initial awkwardness replaced by an intimacy that surprised them both. Can I ask you something? Madison said, her voice barely above a whisper. Anything. When you first saw me in this elevator, what did you think? Marcus considered the question carefully. I thought you were beautiful, he said honestly, and I thought you looked like someone who was carrying a heavy burden. A burden? The weight of other people's expectations. I see it in my patients' parents sometimes. They're so focused on what everyone else thinks that they forget what they actually feel. Madison's breath caught. He saw her, really saw her, in a way no one ever had. "Marcus," she whispered, and something in the way she said his name made him look up sharply. Their eyes met in the dim light, and Madison felt her heart pounding so loudly she was sure he could hear it. Without conscious thought, she found herself leaning forward. "You're so handsome," she whispered, the words escaping before she could stop them. The admission hung in the air between them, vulnerable and honest, and completely unexpected. Marcus's eyes widened, not with surprise at the compliment, but with surprise at the raw emotion behind it. "Madison," he said softly, and her name sounded like a prayer on his lips. In that charged moment, Madison realized she was falling for him. This kind, brilliant, beautiful man who had shown her more genuine care in 3 hours than she'd received in her entire privileged life. "I've never felt this way before," she admitted, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I've dated men my father approved of, men from the right families, men who saw me as a prize to be won, but none of them ever saw me, really saw me." Marcus gently reached out and wiped away her tears with his thumb, the touch sending electricity through her entire body. "Madison, you are so much more than what your father's world sees. You're intelligent, you're compassionate, and you have dreams that deserve to be honored." "My family will disown me," she whispered. But even as she said it, she realized she didn't care anymore. For the first time in her life, she was feeling something real, something that belonged entirely to her. "Is their approval worth sacrificing your happiness?" Marcus asked gently. "Is their opinion of me worth more than what your heart is telling you?" Madison looked into his warm brown eyes and saw her future, not the one her father had planned, but the one she wanted. A future filled with genuine love, with purpose, with a man who would encourage her dreams instead of diminishing them. "No," she said firmly, "it's not." Marcus smiled, and it was like sunshine breaking through storm clouds. "Then what happens when we get out of here?" "When we get out of here," Madison said, her voice growing stronger with each word, "I want to go to a Cubs game with you. I want you to show me the Chicago you know. I want to meet your sisters, and I want to start painting again." "And your father?" Madison took a deep breath. "My father will have to learn that his daughter is capable of making her own choices about love." As if summoned by her declaration, they heard voices outside the elevator. Maintenance crews had finally arrived. The spell of their private world was about to be broken, and they both felt the weight of what awaited them outside. "Madison," Marcus said urgently, "when these doors open, everything changes. Are you ready for that?" Before she could answer, the elevator lurched back to life. The lights flickered on, bright and harsh after hours in the dim emergency lighting. They heard the mechanical grinding of gears as the elevator began its descent to the lobby. Madison stood quickly, smoothing her dress and trying to compose herself, but her hands were shaking, and she couldn't seem to stop them. Marcus stood too, straightening his tie. "Whatever happens out there, remember what we discovered in here. Don't let anyone make you forget who you really are." The elevator chimed as they reached the lobby level. Madison's heart pounded as she realized her father's security team would be waiting. They always monitored her whereabouts during business hours. "Marcus," she said quickly, just as the doors began to open. "Tomorrow, Navy Pier, 7 o'clock. He smiled, understanding immediately. "I'll be there." The doors opened to reveal a crowd of concerned faces, building security, paramedics, and yes, 2 men in expensive suits who were clearly part of her father's security detail. "Miss Wells," one of them called out, rushing forward. "Are you injured? Your father has been extremely concerned." As the security guards shepherded her toward a waiting car, Madison looked back at Marcus one more time. He stood tall and composed, watching her go with an expression that was both hopeful and heartbroken. She wanted to run back to him, to declare her feelings publicly, but fear held her back. Not fear of the elevator this time, but fear of the life-changing choice she was about to make. That evening, Madison sat in her father's study, still wearing her wrinkled designer dress from the elevator. Richard Wells paced behind his massive mahogany desk, his face red with anger and concern. 6 hours, Madison. 6 hours you were trapped with some stranger, and you refuse medical evaluation? Her father thundered. "I'm fine, Father. We just talked," Madison said quietly. But her heart raced every time she thought about Marcus's warm smile, his gentle touch, the way he'd made her feel truly seen for the first time in her life. Talked? With whom? Building security won't give me any information about the other person in that elevator. Madison's mother, Madison Wells, sat primly on the leather sofa, her perfectly coiffed blonde hair not a strand out of place. Darling, you know how important it is to be careful about the company you keep. People will take advantage of situations like this. He didn't take advantage of anything, Madison said firmly, surprising herself with the strength in her voice. He was kind and intelligent and, she stopped herself before saying, handsome. Nevertheless, her father continued, I'm having our security team investigate this person. We need to ensure there are no complications from this incident. Madison's blood ran cold. Her father's investigations were thorough and often designed to find reasons to eliminate people from their lives. She thought of Marcus, of his gentle hands healing children, of his grandmother's wisdom about grace conquering hate. Father, that's not necessary. It's already done, Richard Wells said dismissively. Now, I need you to focus on what's important. The Henderson boy has been asking about you. His family's pharmaceutical fortune would complement our investments nicely. Madison thought of James Henderson, bland, entitled, and utterly incapable of seeing past her last name and trust fund. The contrast with Marcus couldn't have been starker. I'm not interested in James Henderson, Madison said quietly. You will be, her father replied, with the tone that had built his empire. This family's reputation and future depend on strategic alliances, not childish fancies. But as Madison climbed the stairs to her room that night, she could still hear Marcus's voice. Is there approval worth sacrificing your happiness? How's this story hitting you so far? Tell us in the comments. If you're loving it, type 1. If not, type 0. We want to know what you think. The next evening at 6:45 p.m., Madison stood in front of her bedroom mirror, wearing jeans and a simple sweater, clothes her mother would have called common, but that made Madison feel like herself for the first time in years. Her phone buzzed with a text from her father. Henderson dinner moved to Navy Pier. 7:30. Car waiting. Madison's heart sank. Her father was forcing a confrontation, probably after his security team had discovered Marcus would be at the pier. This was a test, and everyone knew it. She could stay home, safe in her gilded cage, and continue living the life that had been planned for her. Or she could choose love, choose authenticity, choose the possibility of real happiness with a man who saw her as more than her family's bank account. Madison looked at herself one more time in the mirror, seeing not the obedient daughter or the society princess, but the woman Marcus had seen in that elevator, someone worthy of genuine love. She walked downstairs where her parents waited by the front door, her father checking his watch impatiently. Ready for dinner with the Hendersons? Madison Wells asked, adjusting Madison's pearl necklace with practiced hands. No, Madison said simply. Her parents froze. Excuse me? Her father said dangerously. I said no. I'm not ready for dinner with the Hendersons. I'm not ready for a strategic alliance. I'm ready to make my own choice about love. With that, Madison walked past her stunned parents, out the front door, and toward the life she wanted to build. The autumn evening was crisp as Madison walked through Navy Pier, her heart pounding with each step. She saw Marcus before he saw her. He stood by the railing overlooking Lake Michigan, looking handsome and slightly nervous in dark jeans and a leather jacket. When he turned and saw her approaching, his face lit up with a smile that made her feel like she was coming home. You came, he said softly as she reached him. I came, she confirmed. And then, because words weren't enough, she reached up and gently touched his face. Marcus, I choose this. I choose you. I choose us. As Marcus pulled Madison into his arms for their first real embrace, she felt the last walls around her heart crumble. This was what love was supposed to feel. Safe and thrilling, peaceful and passionate all at once. Are you sure? Marcus whispered against her hair. Your family, your life, everything will change. Everything already has changed, Madison replied, pulling back to look into his eyes. You changed me, Marcus. In that elevator, you showed me who I could be, who I am when I'm not trying to live up to everyone else's expectations. They walked hand in hand along the pier, talking and laughing like the couple they were becoming. Madison told him about her confrontation with her parents, and Marcus shared his own concerns about the challenges they would face. My family will love you, Marcus said confidently, but your world, it won't be easy. The worthwhile things never are. Madison replied, echoing something he'd said during their hours trapped together. As they shared their first kiss under the Chicago stars, Madison realized that getting stuck in that elevator had been the best thing that had ever happened to her. It had taken being trapped to finally feel free. 2 months later, Madison had started painting again, vibrant watercolors that captured the joy she'd found in love. Her relationship with her parents remained strained, but she'd discovered that their approval mattered less than her own happiness. Marcus introduced her to his sisters, who were initially skeptical but quickly embraced her when they saw how genuinely she cared for their brother. Madison learned to make his grandmother's famous sweet potato pie and heard stories about the woman whose wisdom about love conquering hate had shaped the man she adored. Most importantly, they were building something beautiful together, a love based on mutual respect, genuine admiration, and the kind of deep emotional connection that transcends every standing in Marcus's apartment. Surrounded by her new paintings and his medical textbooks, Madison realized that sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places. Love had found her in an elevator, trapped between floors, and had set her free to become the woman she was always meant to be. Their love story was just beginning, but it was already changing hearts and minds, starting with their own and rippling outward to touch everyone who witnessed the transformative power of choosing love over prejudice, authenticity over approval, and hope over fear. In the end, Madison discovered that the most beautiful art she could create wasn't painted on canvas. It was the masterpiece of a life lived with courage, compassion, and genuine love.